What's up everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am currently obsessed with a new show on Netflix called Indian Matchmaking. I watched it all literally yesterday, binge watched it all day, and I just gagged at the very ending because it felt like we were left with a huge cliffhanger. So for anyone who hasn't watched the show, just really quickly, Indian Matchmaking follows a famed Indian matchmaker named Seema, Auntie Seema. She goes by sometimes Seema Auntie, and she tries to match Indians in the US with fellow Indians as well. They do like a bio data of themselves, they submit them to her, she tries to match them, and she also does the same thing in India as well to perform arranged marriages. And one of the couples that she tried to set up was Akshay and Radhika. Now, going back to my earlier point about the cliffhangers, by the end of it, we didn't know what happened to a lot of couples, and the first one on my mind that I had to Google after watching the entire series was Akshay. I was like, okay, like he's the only person who by the end of the series actually gets engaged, but we don't see his formal engagement party, and we don't see his wedding either. So what happened between him and Radhika? Are they actually married? Because his mom already had the wedding date set before he even had a fiance. Do they have babies? Because his mom was planning when his brother was gonna have babies with his wife, so I'm pretty sure she was the same way with him. So many freaking questions. First of all, I was incredibly surprised that by the end of the series, Akshay was the only one who wound up engaged, because he was one of the most difficult suitors of all, because he had literally no personality, and he was just being insanely pressured by his mom to find someone to get married. She was like, you're gonna have your wedding in 5 or 6 months, and you know, either you choose a woman or I'm gonna choose for you. My blood pressure is too high. You absolutely have to get married. You know, he was 25 years old into her. He was already like past his prime to get married. He had his brother got married at 23 years old, and so his mom would have wanted for him to get married at that age as well. So anyway, despite his lack of enthusiasm for literally anything, he did end up finding a fiance, and her name was Radhika, and she was a chartered accountant. Their first meeting was at his parents' rooftop patio with both sets of parents present, and although the two of them, Akshay and Radhika, were incredibly awkward, it was to be expected because remember, all the parents were there, so there was a lot of pressure and like awkwardness, like trying to have a genuine conversation about, like, you know, sides of yourself that you don't typically show to your parents or share with your parents, because it's like a romantic side. Like, who wants their parents to know what they're looking for, like on this level in a partner? Like, sure, like you could say, oh, like mom, dad, I want to find someone who's nice, caring, good job, but like in private you want to be like, all right, so what are we working with? Like, you know, like I am this kind of person, like does that mesh with you? Like there's some sides of you that you want to kind of just guard between you and the people that you're vetting, you know, as a potential mate. Despite the awkwardness, Akshay actually did end up really liking Radhika, and I feel like 99% of the reason was because she was freaking beautiful, like beautiful. She was a very beautiful woman, and so they did wind up going off to themselves in order to talk and be a little bit more comfortable without their parents being present. And again, it was still a little bit awkward, probably because this time, you know, it was just the cameras present, which, you know, adds another layer of awkwardness, because although the parents can't hear them in that moment, they would be able to watch back their conversations, so they still could not be their true authentic selves. But that was still enough for Akshay and Radhika to move forward with one another. His father literally on the spot on the first date was like, listen, like she checks off everything that we're looking for, so if my son does want to proceed with marrying her, just know like up front that we're okay with that. We do approve of the marriage. So now it's just up to Akshay and Radhika if they do want to end up together as life partners. We then got to see Akshay and Radhika talk on the phone. Again, very awkward conversations. I think Akshay is just an incredibly introverted, awkward person. So like socializing for him, especially in front of camera crews, does not come naturally. But despite all of that and their very short courtship, he does decide that he wants to marry Radhika. He's like, you know what? I think that I have found the one. And he talks about how, like, you know, when he's at work, he's lighting up, he's giddy, checking his phone, excited to hear from her. So I imagine that they were sure the chemistry was a lot better off screen. So he decides to get engaged to her, and they have a stop ceremony, which symbolizes them both being off the market. They were not allowed to talk to other suitors or anything like that. And you know, since we never saw their official engagement, we only saw their stop party, and we never saw their wedding, of course. By the end of the series, I was like, what happened to them? Like, are they still married to this day? Do they have babies? Because his mom was super intense. Like, what happened? Like, they gave her all of these wonderful gifts as well, because his mom had been waiting so freaking long. So I went in assuming that they were still married, but come to find out, they did not even last more than a week after that stop ceremony. According to Akshay, he allegedly discovered some things about Radhika that were a deal breaker, and so he broke up with her a couple of days after their stop ceremony. And he actually described it in an interview to the New York Times, where he said, and I quote, "A few days later, there were some things which we found out that did not go down well with us, and eventually I called it off." And he continued on to say, "Trust is something that once broken cannot be regained in a matter of days. It takes a really long time. I'd rather wait and be with the correct person than be stuck with the wrong person. So I am single right now and still looking for the right one." Guys, what could it have been that Akshay and his family found out about Radhika that was a huge deal breaker? We saw on the show, like, a couple of people were discovering that, oh, I don't know, like their suitor was secretly married in the past. Someone's father was like in jail for attempting to kill his ex-wife. Like, all these like crazy things where you're kind of like, okay, what is going on with Seema's kind of vetting process? It seems like she's not asking very deep questions, or maybe she's admitting some things, hoping that like people could overlook them when they like each other enough. I don't know what it is, but I feel like this kind of series was not the best advertisement for her matchmaking services, because it's quite crazy that all these people are going to her with the intention to find someone to marry. That is incredibly serious, you know, especially in the Indian culture, evidently, because their families are all involved and so invested in finding the right person for their children. So why is it that they're finding things out on their own about these suitors that are ending up being deal breakers? Like, we saw this stop ceremony on the show, how extravagant it was, how expensive the jewelry that Akshay's family gave to Radhika was. Like, what is going on? They take this so seriously. So it's disappointing as a viewer to watch all of these kind of like skeletons fall out of the closet after people already spend their time trying to get to know someone or become emotionally invested in someone as well. He refused to expound on what it was that he and his family found out about Radhika, but it also gets me wondering, did they really find out something about her, or was he just digging for a reason to not marry her? Because we watched on the show that marriage did not seem to be something that he genuinely wanted for himself. It seemed like it was something that his mother was pressuring him so hard to go through with. So perhaps he got cold feet, kind of like some of the other guys did, where they would like go on dates and back out, be like, ghosting the person or whatever. I don't know. Like, was she divorcee secretly? Did she secretly have a child or two? You know, was she still going out on arranged dates despite there having been a stop ceremony? That to me is probably the most plausible thing, because, you know, he talks about trust. So to me, I always associate like quotes about trust to like someone, you know, infidelity happening somewhere. So I kind of feel like maybe it was that way. I don't know what it is, but again, like, it could also have been nothing. It could also just be Akshay not wanting to get married and just wanting to stay living with his family and living a young adult life, you know? Like, it's really difficult to say, because it didn't seem like he had a lot of autonomy in his own decision to marry, because, you know, like we mentioned earlier in the video, and like you watched on the show as well, his mom was like, you have to get married by this month. I am sending save the dates for this month for your wedding. And like, it doesn't matter if you pick someone or if I pick someone, someone has to be there to get married to you for this month. And so, yeah, like it is a lot for a young adult to kind of have to deal with here. Guys, what do you think went down between Akshay and Radhika that he's being so kind of sublime about? Make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.